the Azim Premji University, in collaboration with several civil society organizations, carried out the Azim Premji University COVID-19 Livelihoods Survey across 12 states of this country. For more information on this survey, kindly consult the appendix section of this report. One of the major findings of this study has been the fact that our respondent households' food intake suffered drastically as a result of this pandemic. If you were to have a look at the figure that has come up next to me, you will find that 9 out of 10 respondent households admitted that their food intake had fallen during the pandemic. What is even more distressing is the fact that 6 months down the line, 20% of our households, moving up to 28% of our urban households, have still not recovered in terms of food intake. Overall, 60% of households have either experienced just a partial recovery or have experienced no recovery at all when it comes to their food intake. Expenses, in fact, were one of the main reasons why our respondent households were forced to take up a loan or forced to sell an asset during this time period. If you were to look at the figure that has cropped up next to me, you will find that more than 6 in 10 respondent households that had either taken up a loan or had sold an asset admitted that food expenses were the only reason why they were forced to do so. Moreover, 23% of households admitted that food and other daily needs were one of the primary reasons they were forced to take up a loan or sell an asset during this time period. One of the more distressing stories that has emerged as a result of this study has been the fact that not only poorer households were more likely to take up a loan, but the amount of loans that were taken up by these households were multiple times their pre-lockdown monthly income. In the table that has come up next to me, you can see that those households that have located in the bottom quartile took up loans which were 3.8 times their median monthly income in the month of February. In contrast, those households that are located in the top quartile took up loans which are only 1.4 times their monthly median income of February. This signals that poorer households have been caught in this vicious cycle of debt burden. Along with questions of livelihood, we also wanted to look at the reach and efficacy of government schemes which were announced in the wake of this pandemic. For this, we will be using information and data collected from the India Working Survey, a random sample survey that was conducted across 2 states, Karnataka and Rajasthan. For more information on this survey, kindly consult the appendix section of this report. One of the main relief measures that were announced by the government was the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojna. As per this scheme, all priority households listed under the NFSA were to be given free of cost 5 kg of grain per person over and above their usual entitlement. From the figure that has come up next to me, we can find that 40% of all priority households that we surveyed in Karnataka and 30% of all priority households whom we surveyed in the state of Rajasthan got the full benefit of the PMGKAY during this time period. On the whole, 71% of priority households in the state of Karnataka and 61% of priority households in the state of Rajasthan got more grains over and above their usual entitlement. A second scheme under study was the Chandan Yojna. As per this scheme, all female Jandan account holders were to receive in their accounts a cash transfer of Rs 500 for the months of April, May and June of 2020. In the figure that has come up next to me, we can find that 44% of all respondents in Karnataka and 68% of all respondents in Rajasthan had a female Jandan account holder in their household. But amongst these households, we find that 71% of such households in Karnataka did actually receive a Jandan transfer, and the same number for Rajasthan was 76%. On the whole, only 1/3 of all households that had a female Jandan account holder received all the 3 promised transfers as announced by the central government. We also wanted to look at what was the impact of the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act on the employment crisis that was witnessed during the pandemic. We asked our respondents whether they had a job card and whether they had worked under Narega during the time period of April to September of 2020. Less than one third of rural households in Karnataka had a job card. The situation is better in Rajasthan with more than 7 in 10 rural respondent households having a job card. Of all those households that did have a job card, we then asked them whether they received or whether they were given work under this scheme. We found that less than one fourth of such households got work in the state of Karnataka. The situation was much better in the state of Rajasthan, with more than half of such households receiving work. We then asked them what were the average days of work, and we were told that the median days of work in the state of Karnataka was around 15 days, whereas the median days of work in the state of Rajasthan was around 26 days. We can also make an estimate about the level of unmet demand in these regions when we ask our respondents about how many more days would they have liked to work under the Manrega scheme. Our respondents in Karnataka told us that they would have liked to work for a median of 30 more days if such work was available. And in Rajasthan, our rural respondents told us that they would have liked to work for 90 more days if such work was available. Again, stressing on the fact that there was a lot of unmet demand in the rural parts of these states.